Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Rascanu Show. Our guest today is Alex Goldstein, whom I know for over 20 years. It's such a pleasure to have this conversation with you today. Alex, can you please introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, and talk a little bit about GV Property Management?
Sure. Thank you very much, Alex. So my name is also Alex Goldstein. I'm with GV Property Management. We are a full-service commercial and residential property management in the Greater Toronto Area and in Barrie as well. And we've been in the industry for now up to I think we're up to 8 years now. Just approaching 8 years in December, actually. And our core service deliverable is to ensure that the properties that are under our care, that they operate smoothly, that they maintain their value, and that they generate profit for for the owners of the properties.
Hmm. And how did you land in the residential property management space? That's the area we're going to focus on during the conversation today. We'll leave the commercial for another time. So, if we're thinking about residential property management, how did you land in this space, and what makes GV Property Management different compared to other property management firms?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We started this being property owners ourselves, where we uh, you know had a bit of a hard time initially figuring out the legalities, the maintenance aspects, the leasing aspects, and in general the relationship management with tenants. What we've realized very quickly is that this is not something that is easy. This is not something that anybody can do, and this is not something that everyone should do on their own. We have very quickly learned that there are a lot of things that you need to learn from all types, from all of these aspects that I mentioned. So once we figured that out, we set out to do our property, the management of our own properties as best as we could. We learned a lot of lessons along the way. And then we decided to offer this as a service. We've got educated in that manner. We learned along the way. We've taken the right amount of education to get to where we are now. And then we went on and we started offering this as a service. We started with friends and people whom we knew who were young and getting into the market just like we were at the time. And over time, it grew to where we are now. It continues growing. We continue to actively grow, seek new clients, and offer those services to them so that they know that they're not alone with their properties, and they can focus on other things in their lives and not spend their weekends and evenings, doing their properties, doing their researches, managing their relationships, so that
Hmm.
we have their best interest.
That's good. And if somebody is listening right now and they might have a condo in downtown Toronto or waterfront in Barrie, they might have a triplex in Vaughan, they might have maybe a duplex in Markham, any one of these kind of properties. How is the property management different? How is it approached differently by your firm, depending on the type of residential that it is?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it starts with the selection of the right tenants. So, uh, you have categories of tenants who would be suitable
Mm,
for condo living, categories of tenants suitable for single-family residential living, and so forth. And that is based on their economic circumstances, on their aspirations, and their composition of the family and how many people live there. Do they need a backyard, right? Do they know that they will need a backyard and that they will be a little bit frustrated about a few months into living in a condo that they do not have the right space for them and their families and so forth. It goes further from leasing to maintenance schedules. Obviously, condos require different sort of maintenance, regular maintenance, preventative maintenance, and demand maintenance. it's the wear and tear stuff, than single-family residential homes, townhomes, um, and so forth. So we look at all of those things, and we have over the years developed maintenance schedules specific to the types of properties that are under our care and that exist. And I know that in Toronto and in the Greater Toronto area, and the Barrie area, and all of that, and it's on the news now that there isn't a lot of choice in terms of properties, and they're looking at fourplexes, they're looking at other types of properties uh, to have people a choice, whatever that those choices will be, whatever options that people will have, we will be ready for them to maintain them properly and to make sure that they're leased effectively as well. And then the last piece, following for maintenance, is the legalities, right? It's the relationship management and administration. So, you're looking at different relationships with the condo management, the condo board, if you're in a condo, right? You have more density, you have tenants or residents that are in very close proximities to your unit. What does that do for the tenants in the unit under your care? Whereas, you have garbage collection, you have grass and snow removal and landscaping, and so forth in the townhomes and in the single family residential space. So all those things require administration, and so that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know that you've had a lot of unique experiences from the property management side of things when it comes to homes that you've managed. And there's one particular instance that I know happened a few years ago in Barrie where there was a major um, natural incident that happened that impacted one of the homes that you were property managing. Are you able to describe that situation? And because it's quite unique, but natural disasters do happen, and it's something to be aware of, and think through how would you handle, how would you mitigate the risks involved in those kind of situations?
Yeah, so this was definitely an incident. There was a tornado that hit the south eastern part of the city of Barrie, and that affected several of our properties that we manage, and most of them were minimally affected. Just a few roof shingles that were blown off, and so forth. So those are just regular maintenance calls that we had to our roofers to come in and get that fixed up, and so forth. It didn't even go through insurance or anything. It was just minor fixes. But one property was affected quite significantly. It sustained structural damage. It was not habitable or not suitable for habitation for anybody, like tenants, owners, anybody. It just was not safe. At the time, what further complicated the issue is this was sort of the pandemic days, and many owners and many homeowners were renovating their homes, so there was a shortage of contractors and skilled trades to go in and do their necessary repairs post tornado or post impact. Um, so what we've done is we've immediately contacted. We worked with the owner, with the landlord, to immediately get their insurance company involved to make sure that funding is available, to make sure that funding is going to be allocated in the right way. So not through a insurance nominated restoration company, which is also possible at the time, though those companies were busy doing renos and so forth in other places, so they were all busy. But to us directly, and with the consent of the landlord, so that we could bring in our trades, and we brought them from all over the place, because when a disaster hits a small city like Barrie, everybody in Barrie who's a contractor holding a wrench and a screwdriver is busy. He has work, right? They have work. So we brought contractors from out of town in order to get this property fixed as soon as possible. Right, we made sure by reaching out to insurance, and because we make sure that our tenants have their own insurance, the tenants were moved from the property into another location where they were, they were paid to live there, right? So they were not suffering the consequence of nowhere to live. And our landlord or our client, the owner, was getting his portion of the rent covered as well by the insurance company. So nobody was at a loss except for the insurance company. But that's why you have insurance, right? This is exactly why you must have a good policy specific to landlords, specific to principal residents that are occupied by others, specific to rental properties, and so forth. So we got those contractors in, we got it fixed, and everybody was looking at, all the neighbors were looking at how is it that this property is getting fixed so quickly, whereas we're still waiting for a restoration company to issue an estimate on the total amount of repairs, right? So what that did effectively is it got the tenants faster back into their homes, into the home, and the landlord was able to then continue collecting rent, because if the longer obviously this drags, the tenants were they could say, okay, so I'm just going to move to a new neighborhood and forget this.
Yeah,
And then with a half built property, the landlord is now losing rental value, right? He's
yeah.
not making rental income. So it was a very quick response, and it ended up being very effective for our landlord and for the tenants as well. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that example. Now, we zoomed into one specific circumstance. If we zoom back out a little bit and we think about best practices that GV Property Management adheres to, are you able to share some of those?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, best practices, and it goes back to the core services, right? Best practice in assessment of tenants, assessment of applications, assessment of tenant suitability for the property, where we don't discriminate against tenants, but we also know that some tenants may not, be fully aware of the kind of accommodation that they need, and so we're there to help them figure out, okay, is this the right place for you? Because we could always place you in another one of our properties, which would work better, right? So it's just care for, the value here is just care, right? Care for the landlord's interest, care for the tenant interest, and balancing them together. We're very forthcoming when we say, okay, the landlord or our client is in the wrong, right? So we're there to do what is right, right? The legal compliance of it is another value, right? To make sure that we are compliant. There are no shortcuts that are possible that should be taken when it comes to managing properties, or whether it's through a relationship with tenants or getting them to do something that the landlord is responsible for, and we don't stand for that, right? And certainly making sure that the homes are compliant not only with the Residential Tenancies Act and those conditions, but also with property standards, right? The local property standards, the bylaws, right? Because a lot of landlords that manage properties themselves, they forget that the tenants can not only go to the landlord and tenant board to file maintenance related complaints, they can also go to the municipal property standards board,
Which
right?
you sit on one of them, correct?
Yes, I do
Yeah.
sit on the municipal standards board for Barrie.
Hmm.
And it's a very rewarding experience. We don't have a lot of work as committee members, because a lot of that stuff is handled by the city bylaw officers, who go out and do the inspections and issue the infraction citations and all of this other stuff. And it's certainly not a conflict of interest that I sit on a board like this, because it's I'm a citizen and a resident of the city just like anybody else, and there's no special interests that I could even advocate for through
Yeah.
this committee process. But yeah, so the value is care and compliance, really,
Mm.
and that's what we do.
That's great. So if someone listened to this conversation and wants to get in touch with you as a landlord or as a tenant who's looking for a place and things that you'd be able to even not for one of the properties that you have on hand, but you might be able to point them in the right direction. What would be the best way for someone to reach out and connect with GV Property Management?
Yeah, so we're always ready to assist new clients. We're always open for business. We like to get introduced to new people to help them with their properties and their needs. And There is a contact form on our website at www.gvpropertymanagement.com, or the email hello@gvpropertymanagement.com. Either way is fine. There's also our phone numbers there that you can look at, and for direct inquiries and so forth. And we're looking forward to connecting with you guys.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Alex.
All right, you're welcome.